Football season is right around the corner, and as we are all pumped up, today I'm going to talk about why I think we should hit the pause button on buying QB cards right now. I will explain. Stick around. Hello to all my sports card collectors, investors, all of my collectibles friends. It is another day. It is another sports card video. If you're looking for that just about daily sports card and collectibles content with a little bit of a finance twist, you have come to the right place, my friends. Please hit that big red button below the subscribe button. And if you like what you hear, please hit the like, as it helps us to kind of get these videos out to the sports card masses. Also connect with me on IG at sportscarddad, where I share a bunch of goofy reels. I told my daughter, my 18-year-old daughter, that I'm doing reels now, and she just laughed really hard at me. Anyway, I'm also on the Twitter, the Sports Card Dad. Special thanks to channel partner ComC.com, your home for buying, selling, and flipping all of the hottest trading cards. Consignment Marketplace is home to over 29 million cards across all sports, genres, and eras. With a ComC.com account, you can purchase cards from different sellers over time and ship them home together later, or immediately reprice them for sale on the ComC Marketplace. The original vault, the OG vault, ComC.com. Check them out. All right, guys, as we talked about, I got back from the National, about a week ago or so. I'm still kind of recovering from it. I picked up a little bit of a cold, testing negative, so all good, but I am definitely congested and all that stuff. Working through it, all good. But one thing that was very consistent, there's a lot of that Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence talk while we were out there. And I totally get it. Football season is the best. Fall comes, the weather cools down, it's a blazing hot summer. Our favorite teams suit them up and get at it, and we're headed towards another awesome NFL season ahead. The one thing that stands out about today's NFL is that the QB talent in the league is absurd. I think it's the best that it's ever been, and it seems like every year it just continues to get better. And even if you listen to the commentators, the Troy Aikmans of the world, they talk about how great this new crop, this new era of quarterbacks is. They can do it all. They can run, they can throw, they can figure out defenses, exotic defenses very quickly. And just about every team in the league, we're talking about 32 teams, has a viable starter. Whereas if you go back 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, I'm a huge New Orleans Saints fan where we just churned through quarterbacks. There was a lot of teams that just didn't have a franchise quarterback. Nowadays, it's not really the case. Take a look around. And does that make it easier or harder to buy football cards, especially when it's focused around QBs? A lot harder. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So huge money being spent on Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Of course, the exciting upstarts. You've got Trevor Lawrence with a new coach, second year. There's excitement there. But the one thing that I've learned about the NFL over the years, there's a ton of parity. What is parity? Well, it means that there's all sorts of predictions as to which teams are going to be great, which teams are going to be terrible. And it all just flies in your face when the actual league starts playing the games. Injuries in the NFL are such a crucial thing. You can have a lights out team on paper and they go through a whole blitz of injuries. Last season, the Saints, my team, the New Orleans Saints, set an all-time record for the number of starters that they started in a season. It was like 55 players, 56 players, different starters, and they still had a winning record. Not tooting my team's horn. Yeah, I am kind of. Didn't make the playoffs, but they were 9-8. But the point is that you can have injuries derail a team. You could have a franchise QB, the line gets hurt, and all of a sudden he's having a mediocre season. One injury, couple of injuries can really throw the whole thing off, which makes this particular type of sports cards even that more risky. It's tough. It's really, really tough. The first thing we're going to talk about here today is strength of schedule. Now, I've never really put a whole lot of credit, I guess, into this strength of schedule because it can change. In other words, last year's teams, those could have been very strong teams. This year, not as strong. But I was looking at this based on Vegas odds. This strength of schedule is based on Vegas win totals, what they anticipate they would be. And if we're comparing to last year, of the 10 NFL teams that had the hardest, that Vegas had basically put as the hardest strength of schedule, only 3 of them went over their anticipated win total. Of the 10 that had the easiest, only 3 teams were under that projected win total. So, is it a perfect science? Absolutely not. But it does kind of help us. It gives us a little bit of insight. We can try to use it as a data point. And I'm going to do that today. So guess who's got the hardest strength of schedule coming up this year? The Kansas City Chiefs, who just happen to have, outside of Tom Brady, the most prolific QB in the league, Pat Mahomes. As we know, Mahomes lost Tyreek Hill, so there is a huge void there. Now, they've signed players. They've brought in some guys. It's not as if they're going to be terrible. Andy Reid still coaches that offense, and they still have Travis Kelce. So it's not like the Chiefs are going to be terrible, but they're in a brutal division, and they have the hardest schedule in the NFL. And Patrick Mahomes' prices, when we go back to 2019, they absolutely skyrocketed. They've come down, but they are still way above where they were. So there's a lot of people that are kind of looking at Pat Mahomes as like, that could be an interesting buying opportunity if they just absolutely slump. I mean, if they've got the hardest strength of schedule, who knows, they have a couple of injuries, it could go downhill kind of quickly, not because they're a bad team, but just because they're playing tough teams and they're in a brutal division. Patrick Mahomes cards will be ones that I'm paying attention to just to see how they start the season. Keep in mind, too, there's a lot of reaction after that first week. And if you watch NFL football, there are teams that win in week 1 that really, there's outliers. For example, the Saints beat the Green Bay Packers 38-3, absolutely thumped them. Rodgers, I think, had 3 picks in the game, which his touchdown interception ratio is absurd. He just doesn't throw very many interceptions. He looked awful. Now, did the Packers have a terrible season after that week 1 loss? No, they had a great season coming off of that. The Saints had a decent season. They were 9-8, barely missing the playoffs because the Rams couldn't beat the 49ers to finish out the season. Anyway, don't even get me started on the Rams. So is it a great time right now to buy Patrick Mahomes stuff as we're getting excited leading into, preseason? This is kind of the excitement month where all of a sudden we're seeing preseason games. We're hearing about guys that are lighting it up in practice, August, and then we get into that first week. I would just, for me, I'm just going to sit pat, pun intended, sit pat Mahomes. Anyway, whatever. All right, so the Chiefs, they've got the toughest schedule. Who's another prospect that we're like, man, this guy, there's a lot of cards being moved around on this guy. It's easily Justin Herbert. There's Justin Herbert cards everywhere. People are all excited about Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. Their strength of schedule, number 20. Now, of course, they're in the same division with Patrick Mahomes. They're also in the same division as Russell Wilson now with the Broncos and the Raiders. And okay, so you get the point. So they are sitting at number 20. What about Joe Burrow? It's even worse. Number 26. He's got the number 26 hardest schedule based on Vegas odds on the win totals. What about Tua and the Dolphins? Everyone loves Tua. Number 19 strength of schedule. Josh Allen, number 18 strength of schedule. None of these players who people are spending massive money on have a top 10 easiest schedule based on the strength of schedule projection. One guy that doesn't get any love that literally just won the Super Bowl, Matt Stafford. His strength of schedule, number 31. Almost as bad as the Chiefs. What about the GOAT, Tom Brady? It actually sits at number 7. So he is in that top 10. Another guy that sits in that top 10, Jalen Hurts. I know all the Eagles fans are like, is Jalen Hurts our guy? Is he not our guy? We got A.J. Brown from the Titans. We got a big-time receiver. It's do or die time for Jalen Hurts, and he is sitting with the number 2 easiest schedule based on this, so we'll have to see how that rolls out. And I'm not even talking about the other guys, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. We got Dak Prescott. We got Matt Ryan. He's now a Colt. Do you understand my point here that there's excitement around? All these teams can get excited. Matt Ryan, he's been with the Falcons. Who knows? Maybe he completely lights it up with the Colts. He's got a great defense now. He's got a great team around him, whereas with the Falcons, kind of an average team for a long time. Now he's with a legitimate all-around team. Matt Ryan, is he a play? That's the whole problem. That is the problem. So you're probably thinking like, all right, well, Dustin, I want to buy football cards. What are your thoughts? Like, when should I look? I think that the first 4 weeks of the season are kind of the excitement weeks, and then it starts to fade. And then also, what's bound to happen with teams, they start off in a slump. Maybe they start off 1-3, but then they rebound. Or maybe one of these guys that gets a little nicked up, out for 2, 3, 4 games. The cards go down because people are like, you know what? He's beat up. The team's losing. You get all this reactionary stuff in this weekly NFL and these weekly NFL results. And so based on that, you can formulate a plan of like, hey, I still really like this player. Yeah, he might be out with an ankle for 3 weeks, but he was having a great season before he went down. A great example of this too, and if you're playing a little bit of a longer term, short term game, Joe Burrow. Think about this. His rookie season, he was absolutely lighting it up, and he went down with a torn ACL. You know who made big money? Are the folks that bought Joe Burrow when he went down. I remember doing videos on this where I was like, I wonder why Joe Burrow stuff is priced here. And then you've got other guys that are up here. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense, but it was simply because guy went down with an injury and, new QB in the NFL. A lot of these guys don't work out. But if you happen to get in and you got lucky, you picked Joe Burrow as the horse you were running with. And then, of course, nobody thought the Bengals were going to the Super Bowl, but that was a opportunity. And so when people say like, injured players, why would I buy into an injured player? If you have a little bit of a longer term horizon on an injured player, like with Joe Burrow, for example, you can do really, really well. It happened too with Dak Prescott, where he went down with injury. There was a buying window there. And then, of course, this stuff kind of comes back up. There's excitement, a lot of Cowboys fans out there. And so there's opportunity. And so I guess my point is August is not the time to pick the horses, the QB horses that you're running with. It's really good, I think, to kind of get into the season and figure out, all right, which guys do I really like that are kind of underperforming, or maybe they're doing great, but their team is falling apart. Maybe the defense stinks, but the offense is doing great. There definitely is arbitrage in these QB card prospects. It's a lot of it can be timing, just timing it right. When everybody's buying a player, a QB, it's probably not a great time to buy. If they're down on, Tom Brady goes out for 4 or 5 games for whatever, and there's a slump in his prices. He's not a great example because he's the GOAT. He's always going to have higher prices. It's just the way that it is. But if you do see a slump in prices, and you happen to like Tom Brady, whatever, then there can be an opportunity there. And it's with a lot of these guys. On the flip side, you have to be careful. If Jalen Hurts, let's just say Jalen Hurts, really kind of unproven guy. I didn't even mention Trey Lance. Trey Lance is another guy people are spending big money on. He hasn't even taken an NFL snap yet. Let's go back to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts goes down for 3 or 4 games. Who knows? Maybe the backup takes his starting job. So that's another kind of risk that comes along with these guys. If it's a proven guy, if you feel like, Dak Prescott got paid, there's guys like that are franchise guys. If they're fringe guys they haven't been paid franchise QB money, there's some added risk there. If a guy's been paid, and he's going to come in and run that team, at least, for a few years, and you're confident that he will be the starter coming back from injury if that happens, then there could be something there. More than ever, there's high-end cards for a lot of these guys. And the reality is with the parity in the NFL, there are going to be disappointments off of this list that I just called out. Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Tua, Jalen Hurts, Matt Stafford, Tom Brady, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. One of these guys is going to win the Super Bowl. 2 of these guys will be playing in the Super Bowl. It might not even be any of these guys that I talked about here. It could be 2 different guys. And really where there will be opportunity, and again, nobody's going to be able to have the foresight to know what's going to happen here, is there are certain QBs that are just priced very low right now. There will be a couple of them that really pop off to start the season. It always happens. There will be a team that goes like 4-1, 5-2 that shouldn't be there, or that the experts thought, oh my gosh, they should be last in their division, but they're 6-1 and they're riding high and they're playing great football. It happens every single year, and the QB of that team will see a boost. But again, it's just, did you happen to pick that one? Did you happen to get in on that one? So it is kind of a fun speculation game. I mean, look, a lot of sports cards right now, we've talked about this, is on the sports betting side. So this kind of falls into that. There are so many QBs out there that you might look and say, like, you know what? I really like this team. I feel like the QB's prices are just underpriced based on where I think the team's going to go. This is kind of an extension of sports betting or fantasy football, etc. It can be fun. But guys, let me know who you think is going to be a breakout player, or who you think might just be overrated. Like, man, I just think they're going to take a hit, their card prices. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Stay healthy, stay awesome, And don't forget to check out comc.com. See you next time.